Been on Good Morning Cincinnati before. He teaches parents all over the tri-state lessons learned by his group, A Wired Family. And his newest book is Social Media and the Adolescent Digital Tribe. It explores what's happening with the first truly digital generation. And Steve is with us once again this morning. Good to see you.
Thank you, Sheila.
It's an interesting read. I didn't get through the whole thing, but as a parent of a 12-year-old, some of this is kind of scary. First, why don't you start out by telling us what is the adolescent digital tribe, Steve?
Yeah, it's really, if you think of when you grew up in a neighborhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sphere of influence were probably your parents, some of your friends,
Mm-hmm.
Your school,
teachers,
maybe your church and what have you, and that. And to a certain extent, that still exists today. But the digital tribe, so you had a tribe, but the digital tribe is the sphere of influence for children today is enormous.
It's the whole world.
It is the whole world.
Yeah.
And your parents knew your friends.
Mm-hmm.
But kids today, they have friends that parents have no idea. Well, are they good folks? They're bad folks, right? So I would say apps themselves aren't bad. It's the people sometimes that are within those apps. And we've created through algorithms, right, a digital tribe. So the kids are being fed sometimes those things that app wants them to be fed. And
so
that's
what
what's
kinds
different.
of things are they being fed by all of this exposure?
Well, I would say a young mom came up to me last year and said, why would my daughter send a naked photograph of herself to her boyfriend, right? And I said, you really need to kind of go back and just look at the history of media, basically, and what happened from 1940 through today. We've been feeding kids today in a concept that this highly sexualized content is okay. And as they begin to view this content, the algorithm begins to feed them even more content of a similar nature. That's in terms of culture, but
Right.
it's also true in terms of politics as well.
It's the same thing as us going shopping on our phones and then the ads pop up. So if the kids are looking at a certain thing on their phone, then this is going to be fed to them. Now, what do you find when you talk to parents about their knowledge of what their kids are consuming?
Well, obviously some parents are very knowledgeable
Mm-hmm.
about it, right? But I think the overwhelming majority of them aren't. And I think last time I was on, I talked about most parents aren't aware that 75% of kids are on their phones at 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're really not aware of. They know what Snapchat is, but they don't realize Snapchat is not the number one app. The number one app is YouTube. And Netflix, kind of neck and neck. And that content, most parents have no idea actually exists out there and its impact on a young mind. And
you also kind of dive into it, and we only have a minute left, and I wish we had more time, but you dive into links that we may not even know how much it is linked to depression and anxiety and suicide and ADHD. What are some of the unintended consequences that we're seeing?
Well, I think the unintended consequences you kind of hit on a little bit, kind of interesting. Much of these things didn't begin to happen until 2007. Right? And so I always tell parents, there was always war, there's always poverty, there's always deaths in the family. Now, what is different today than prior to, in their generation?
They all have phones.
They all have phones.
Right.
Right. And unfettered access to the world and the world to them.
What's your top advice to parents?
Not necessarily to get rid of social media, but to manage and monitor. And in this generation, in these last 2 years, it's much easier to do through parental controls, but talk to your kids.
awiredfamily.org
yes.
is the website if you want to learn more. The book is called Social Media and the Adolescent Digital Tribe. And Steve talks at schools. He talked at my son's schools. He does a great job. So if you can go see him live, that's a great thing to do too. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, Steve.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll be right back.